All right, welcome back to Ducks and Pucks. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Jones. And what a series we have so far, Eddie. The Ducks have a 2-0 lead after two games. Pretty much dominated both games. We had the blowout 6-1 win in game one, and then Anderson stepping up with the shutout in game two, Eddie.
Yeah, I think it was a nice change from the all the close games and except for game four and the first series, and it was a little bit less stressful for everybody to see, and just to see the Ducks play three complete periods, and a good second period, finally scoring two goals. Perry and Eden picking them up, and Bolesky stepping up and scoring the first goal in both games so far in this series, and just a complete effort, good game from Anderson. Chasing Hiller was a little bit rewarding too. I know the fans got after him a bit too, and you heard in game two, trying to chanting "We want Hiller" as well. So I think it's nice, nice change of pace for the Ducks in this series.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a key that we talked about going in against Hiller was, scoring on him early. We knew in the past that when he gives up goals early, he kind of loses momentum, gets a little bit flustered, and we were kind of looking back at that Vancouver series, and we were trying to figure out what we would get. Because Hiller played really well in four games, only averaging a goals against of 1.5. But then he got chased out of the other two games, giving up five goals, and just a couple periods there, and that's what happened here. He ended up getting pulled early in this one, and the Ducks pretty much rolled, and it was really the top line. I mean, Perry and Getzloff. You couldn't really expect for much more other than maybe a hat trick. I know a lot of us were hoping that Perry would get one, but it was just a dominant performance, especially from the top line, Eddie.
Yeah, and you really were expecting that, and to ask for one 4 point game in the playoffs is amazing, and then for Perry to pick up his second, and Getzlaf having the 3 point game earlier, and with Perry leading the way with 13 points in 6 games, you're leading all of the NHL, and Getzlaf tied for second with Johnson and Kane and Keith. That's some some great company to keep, and those are two guys we were expecting. They'd have to do well if the Ducks were going to succeed, and with the other with Silverberg stepping up in the first series, and the Kessel line doing it again as well, supporting that line, it's given Getzlaf and Perry more space, and it's evident with the 4 point game in game one.
Yeah, we talk about that 4 point game. He had one against the Jets, and he had one in this series. So now he's gotten two, and that's the first time a player's done it since 2004, Keith Primeau. So I mean, he's up there really rolling in the playoffs right now. He's also scored, 1 point in every single game except for one so far, Eddie. So I mean, it's been quite a turnaround for Perry because the last couple years in the playoffs, he's scored, but he hadn't been on fire as much as some people had mentioned, and I don't know, maybe he's eating his Wheaties, but I mean he's just been on it this these last two series. Maybe it's playing the Canadian teams. I don't know what it is, but it's really good to see, especially Perry had a really long season with dealing with the mumps issue, getting injured earlier too as well. So for him to come back and just absolutely dominating the playoffs right now is a very, very good thing to see,
Yeah, and
Eddie.
this is kind of what we expected to see. Perry usually turns it on near the end of the season. Maybe with these injuries and being out, he's if for him his timeline, it's games 60 to 80 in the regular season right now, and he's just finishing off strong like he normally does. So he likes to turn it on late in the year, and for lucky for us, it's in the playoffs. And I think just with how he was criticized by some fans for lack of effort in the end of the season, and just being able to step it up and show why he's one of the top two players on the team, obviously with Getzlaf, is big for us, and we're going to need it to keep going here with games three and four in Calgary.
Yeah, and the first game was really a complete effort if you look at it too. The Duck had two power play goals and four opportunities. They shut out Calgary with their opportunities. They had three power plays. They didn't score on any. Obviously they got that late goal to ruin the shutout bid for Anderson. But every other statistical category, I mean, pretty much the Ducks did well. The only thing, that we've talked about before that kind of came back to get them in this game a little bit was the turnovers. Granted, that last goal. that was scored in the game by Calgary there was off of a bad bounce off Boschman's foot. But just the turnovers is the only really thing that I saw in the first game, Eddie, that the Ducks could have improved on.
Oh yeah, like you said, a pretty complete game and a couple turnovers. Obviously, the Boschman, deflection off his skate, there wasn't much he could do. A little bit of a bad bounce off the board. He expected it, to come to his stick and bounce right off his skate right to Sam Bennett in the slot, and you can't really blame anybody for that one. Just an unlucky bounce. But all in all, like you said, it was a complete game. Dominated. Well, not really dominated, but had the advantage in face-offs and hits and being able to get the power play going was something that we said they obviously needed to prove on from the season, and we expected it was Wisniewski to come in and be that catalyst on the power play, but it's somehow you got the same guys you've had all year, and then just needed that the playoffs just to kickstart it, and it's the number one power play or number two power player behind Minnesota in the playoffs right now, so that's definitely a big boost getting the special teams going.
Yeah, and you talk about that too. This next game, last night was a little bit different variety. I mean, special teams, the Ducks didn't come through, but they pulled this one out more of a defensive battle after the first period. That first period they had 20 shots on goal. Bolesky got another goal. He's gotten goals in both of these games now, and that second line has been really rolling as well. And it was a dominant performance in this one, but more so in the first period. It looked like the Ducks really took it to Calgary, but the move by Hartley to put in Ramo definitely gave them a little bit of a boost. I mean, this game was, not really certain until late in the third period. I mean, it was 1-0 for most of this contest.
Yeah, this game could have been over just like the other one really early on. The Ducks had many chances to score, and it could have been 2, 3, 4-0 after the first period. It was the one 2-on-1 where Ramo had to do a diving glove save, and there's a couple other chances too where he just robbed him. Like in the first game where there was a couple posts in the first period. It was really the Ramo show in the first period, and the Ducks were lucky to get one because he was just on fire. You really couldn't see anything getting past him at that point.
Yeah, and then we went to the second period, and we didn't really have a slump, because no goals were scored or anything. But to me, the Ducks kind of let off the gas pedal there in the second and the third. I mean, you had 20 shots in the first period, and then only a handful in each of the second and the third. It seemed like they I don't know if they were just a little bit lethargic or something, but the second period they came out a little bit. They played well defensively, but offensively they just it seemed like the forecheck for some reason it just was missing in that second period, Eddie.
Yeah, and I think you saw that a little bit trailing into the third period too. I think it's just Calgary sort of finally figured out the forecheck in a way to stop it. They kind of started pinching up and stopping the Ducks at the neutral zone and making them dump it in early and forcing only one guy to come in. And the Ducks forecheck really only works when they can stop the puck along the boards and then get it and win it back and cycle it around. And Calgary seemed to figure that out in the second period. And it really slowed the Ducks down offensively. They couldn't really deal with it. You saw more chances, less shots, but more chances on the forecheck in the third period. But Calgary really seemed to figure it out in that second period.
Yeah, and then the Ducks came through in the third. Hampus Lindholm, he got his first playoff goal. A nice point shot that Ramo was screened on and didn't see. Then Nate Thompson followed it up with his first playoff goal with an empty netter, and the Ducks would go on to win this one 3-0. And another first for the Ducks. Frederik Andersen got his first career playoff shutout, which was nice to see. I was kind of hoping that would come soon. I mean, the way he had played against the Jets and the way he had played in Game 1, you kind of thought that Anderson would get one sooner or later, Eddie.
Oh yeah, he definitely could have two back-to-back shutouts if it wasn't for that unlucky goal in game one. And he's just been, all the doubts against the Ducks in the beginning of the playoffs was that, who's going to go in goalie if Gibson comes back, and the same as last year with the goalie questions. And Freddie's really, solidified that number one role and run with it throughout the playoffs so far. And he's been arguably the best goalie in the playoffs. For either team so far in the playoffs.
Yeah, and another big stat too. I mean, obviously, Frederik Andersen's 6-0, and obviously the Ducks are as well. And just a stat for you guys out there: that's the first time the team in the playoffs has done that since 2008, which was the Penguins that year that did it, and they ended up losing in the Stanley Cup final. But that's how long back it was since the team had started out 6-0, and I know some people are talking about the best records and everything out there, and I don't remember the exact best record that's been in the postseason, but if you go back to the Ducks 2007 championship year, the Ducks were 16-5 that year, to kind of give you an idea how they did. So we may see something like that, Eddie. The Ducks are rolling. I mean, would they go 4-0 in this one with a sweep? I mean, maybe. I mean, you and I talked about this series, like the last series. We said, 5 games at most 6. So the Ducks could do that this series, but I don't see them sweeping all the way through. I mean, it's a long way to go before we know what's going to happen in the later rounds. But definitely like the way the Ducks are rolling so far, Eddie.
Yeah, and I think everybody's getting a little bit too excited here. I could definitely see us sweeping this round against Calgary, the way they've played in game 1 and 2, and they seem to show no adversity when they went to Winnipeg, and if they can show the same in Calgary, a sweep here is definitely possible. But thinking of them having to go into most likely Chicago or possibly Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals and trying to get a sweep there, and then trying to get a sweep in the Stanley Cup Finals, I think that would be it's it's almost impossible to think that that will actually end up happening. But if they can continue to dominate on the faceoffs like they have, great penalty power play so far, great penalty kill, the top goal scoring team in the playoffs, least goals against, they've pretty much dominated in all every category, and it's safe to say that they're the best team in the playoffs going right now, and you don't want to look too far ahead, but I think it would be amazing to see, but not too likely.
Yeah, that kind of brings up some other questions people have said too. Going into the lineups and whatnot. As you know, Wisniewski still hasn't played in any of these 6 games. Fletchman only came in when Thompson and Wagner went out, and Sekach has also been out as well. So I know some people are asking questions about those guys coming in. We thought we may see them in this series, but I don't know, with the way that the Ducks keep winning and the way Bruce is just stuck with the lineups. It's kind of the if it isn't broken, don't fix it kind of thing, Eddie. I don't know. I'd like to see Wisniewski and Sekach get in there, but man, I just don't know. When you win 6-1 and 3-0, it's kind of difficult to try to adjust the lines and pull somebody out when there hasn't really been anybody that's played poorly, top to bottom.
Yeah, and it's hard to, like you said, put anybody in when you've won 6 games in a row. You don't really want to change anything up. It seems all the chemistry's there, everybody's working together, and it's just meshing well. And obviously, you don't want to break up that first line and the second line. They've both been amazing, and we thought maybe you'd see guys like Palmieri or Bolesky or Jackman or some of the bigger, slower guys drop out for Sakach and Fleischman to bring in some speed and skill against a very fast, skillful Calgary team, and they stuck with the lineup going in, and it's worked so far. And it's hard to bring out some of these guys, obviously position wise, Sekach and Fleischman being predominantly left wingers. Do you really want to bring out Maroon and Bolesky, Cogliano, or Edom so far? We've all liked how they've played, and even Edom's had some spark to his play, scoring that great goal in the Winnipeg series. And it's been a great series for all the forwards. And you look on defense too. Everybody thinking Wisniewski would jump in to spark the power play, and we really haven't needed him so far. And Dupre's played really well physically and getting some offense going. And surprising to everybody, Stoner's actually had a pretty good playoff so far. I wouldn't go on a limb and say great, but he's made some great plays so far. And I think you just want to keep it the same. And if you won 6 games in a row, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I think we'll probably see the same lineup in Game 3, and if we win there, Game 4 too.
Yeah, I mean, I think unless something drastically happens, for some reason Calgary blows out the Ducks in one of these games in Calgary, or something goes haywire, I don't see the Ducks changing. I think Bruce is going to stick with what he's doing, and I mean, it's got to be frustrating for Wisniewski and Sekach, especially coming from other teams, Montreal and Columbus, and now we're here, rolling the playoffs, and making such a run right now. It's got to be tough for those guys to sit, but. I mean, I know some of the fans are upset, but you know what? If we keep winning and we just keep on going the way that we're doing, it's just tough to argue. I mean, I agree with a lot of the fans. I like to see those guys in, but it's just hard, like you said. Chemistry is a big issue too, and when you got Edom that's gotten 2 goals in this series, or in both the combined series, he's gotten 2 goals. Bolesky's got 2 in the last 2 games. Like you said, it's hard to move the left wingers out and try to justify, bringing in a Sekatch or a Fletchman. And Wisniewski's rotated with Stoner and Dupree throughout the season. Obviously towards the end after we picked him up from the trade deadline. So that's been another tough move to try and put him out. I think they'll just keep going, like you said. The only thing really that we're waiting for is Gibson. LaBarbera backed up last night. Gibson was feeling ill. So that's kind of the update of where he's at. I heard that his hand is doing much better, so he'll be fine, which, I mean, I know a lot of us aren't worried because, Anderson has been on fire. He's been the brick wall, as I put out there, and a lot of you also put out there photos of, especially in these last 2 games. But that's the only other injury update we have. Everybody else, I know Wagner's been out there skating, but Thompson's back, so we're probably not going to see Wagner, at least not this series. So that's kind of where we're at on the lineups. The only other really thing to look at is just to maybe take a look around the league, Eddie. We've got 3 other series going on right now. If we look at who we may play in the next round, you got Chicago against Minnesota. They've also taken a 2-0 series advantage. They almost blew game 1, Eddie, but it looks like unless things change in Minnesota, Chicago is probably going to beat them and go to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, but the first 2 games were at United Center, so they still have to go into Minnesota and play a couple games. And Minnesota's special teams have been great, so if they can get some chances, you never know. And if Dubnyk can steal them a game, and they've got a great team there. So, being down 2-0 is obviously unfortunate for them, but, I don't think anybody would be surprised to see them win these next 2 games in Minnesota, and then, it's anybody's series.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Minnesota could win those 2 and turn it around, and I know all of us hope that. We want that series to probably go as far as possible, just like Vancouver and Calgary, went farther with us, obviously getting done and getting rested. Another series, I was a little surprised by this. I know you weren't as much as I was, but Tampa Bay is up on Montreal 2-0 in their series after almost getting eliminated by Detroit, but going to the 7th game and winning that. Cronwall was suspended from his hit in Game 6, so he didn't play in Game 7. Tampa Bay took the advantage and won that game, and now they've won 2 in a row against Montreal in Montreal, Eddie. Which to me, I thought Tampa Bay could pull out 1, but 2 was pretty amazing for on the road in Montreal.
Yeah, and not to, Tampa Bay is obviously a good team, and so is Montreal, but it kind of reminds me of when Boston was so dominant a couple of years ago. You looked at anybody in these conference, you say, oh, there's almost nobody can beat them, and the only team that could beat them, and that just suited their play style was the Montreal Canadiens. And then I think this is the same sort of situation reversed, and as I think Montreal's such a great team, their only downfall is they can't score goals, and I think Tampa Bay just matches up against them so well, and Tampa Bay scores a lot of goals. They're the 3rd highest scoring team left in the playoffs. Anaheim and Chicago are the only 2 teams above them. And if Bishop plays well in goal, you can only ride Price for so long from Montreal, and they're the lowest scoring team in the playoffs. Obviously, Pittsburgh's out, so they're the lowest scoring team right now, scoring only 1.88 goals per game, which is something we knew they'd struggle with. And like I said, Price is arguably the probably the Hart Trophy winner this year, but you can only ride him for so long, and if they're not going to score any goals, this series is pretty much done and buried.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, Tampa Bay, I think is going to take that series. Like you said, you can ride a hot goaltender for only so long, but you got to score goals, and if you're scoring less than 2 goals in a game, that's just not going to get it done unless the team that you're playing against is only scoring maybe 1 goal a game. But they're going to have to figure something out. They're going to have to shake some stuff up, and they're going on the road to Tampa to figure that out. So I know my buddies over on the Canadian radio for the Montreal Canadiens. I wish them luck because it's tough sledding so far. And that brings us to the last series. You got the Rangers against the Capitals, and so far this has been a split. 1-1. Washington had that late goal to win. 1 point and change left in that game, Eddie. And this is a series that it could go 6, 7 games for a long haul.
Yeah, it's been probably the most exciting series so far. Obviously, we with the Ducks winning too, it's very exciting. But close games for both these games. Washington scoring with 1.4 seconds left in game one, and New York holding out for the 3-2 win in game two. It's a very close series. Both goalies are playing well. Lundqvist and Holtby. Both teams can score goals. Obviously, Ovechkin on Washington and Backstrom are the two main guys there, and Nash and St. Louis and Stepan and those guys on New York Rangers, and they're just two really good, well-rounded teams, and it's going to be one of the better series to watch so far, obviously, other than the Ducks. But I think, like you said, it's I wouldn't be surprised to see it go 6 or 7 games for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been watching now that almost all my finals are, are done. I've only got one left. I've been pretty much watching all the other series as much as I can, and they've all been really entertaining so far. So it's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully the Ducks will get past Calgary as we think they will, and then get to the Western Conference Finals, and go from there, and have some exciting more podcasts and more articles to coming out. Obviously covering all the action that we've been doing so far. I know I had some questions last week. I just wanted to cover real quick on the NHL schedule. I know some people were wondering why the schedule was changed. Originally it had come out as Friday, Sunday, and then it was Thursday, Sunday, and I know some people were upset about it, and I just wanted to give you an update on actually what really happened with the schedule. Was one of the coaches had contacted me on that Monday early afternoon and had told me that the NHL had advised the team that it was Thursday and I'm sorry, that it was Friday originally and Sunday. And then very, very late that night, the NHL changed it and made it Thursday instead. I don't know the reasoning, but that was told to me by one of the members of the coaching staff, and that was a last minute change. Obviously the Ducks app showed Friday and Sunday too, so we all had thought that. But just so you all know, that's what happened. The NHL is in charge of the schedule, not the team. So that's just why it happened. It was just a last minute change by the NHL. It's something that's out of the control of our hands, Eddie. But that's how it goes.
Yeah, I know. Either way, like I'm sure you would have rather have the Friday start with your finals being on Thursday, but it's not that big a deal. I think everybody was happy to get in it earlier after such a long break, and like you said, the NHL decides the schedule. I think we're all just happy that we're this far into the playoffs so far and undefeated.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the way it's going, it's going well. We're just going to keep rolling, and I think that's what's going to be the success is just staying with the formula that's worked, and doing what we're doing. We're winning in all the categories, and I don't really see any change in this series. I think going to Winnipeg and playing there was probably one of the most difficult challenges, and the Ducks came out with those two wins. So I think going to Calgary this next week, I don't really think it's going to phase them. I know it's going to be the Sea of Red up there, but I don't. The Ducks just don't. They just refuse to lose, and they just have the chemistry and the mentality of we're going to win every game, Eddie. And I mean it's just what happens. And now we've gone from scraping and pulling out late comeback wins to you know blowing the other team out, or shutting them out. And I mean, it's a very, very good sign, Eddie. I'll tell you, the last two games, I haven't really been as stressed out watching them. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think when you think of going into a building like Calgary after coming out of the whiteout in Winnipeg, and then the prospects of possibly having to go into the United Center and play Chicago in another series after this one. I think we've just got some of the players who just thrive on those situations, and they thrive on being in opponents' arenas. Obviously Kessler and Perry love love getting booed and love getting hassled by the opponent fans, and I think going into Calgary is going to be the same thing. And I'm not too worried about them going on the road. It's almost like a second home for us. So it'll be a fun 2 games to watch coming up.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that too. It seems like whenever they boo or make chance of whatever they're going to come up with, it just seems to have the reverse effect. I mean, Perry goes off, Kessler goes off, Anderson starts stopping every shot that he sees. I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's almost like you would think that the fans of the opposing team would not chant our players' names because it's had the reverse effect, Eddie. So I hope they chant every player's name on the entire roster, because it'll just motivate the Ducks that much more.
Yeah, I know. It's speaking of the chants too. I liked the fans getting into it last night and chanting "We want Hiller" after we went up 2-0. And seeing them all, more people wearing orange after we called for it after the last podcast was fun to see everybody getting into it and really supporting the Painted Orange campaign.
Yeah, definitely. That was another thing I wanted to say. I wanted to appreciate the comments too that we had received from everybody this last week. It was very positive from everybody, and the painted orange has been going very well. I saw a lot more people wearing the Stadium Series jerseys. If you had one, obviously, people were wearing them. I was wearing mine instead of my traditional Ducks and Pucks one, to join in on the painted orange campaign. And and I have to give it to the Ducks organization too. They've been giving out T-shirts and towels as well that have helped, and they stepped up their game too. The latest towel, Eddie. Had "Let's Go Ducks" on it, and it had white coloring on it, and also had gold for the Ducks logo, which was nice to see because not that the other towels weren't quality, but the other towels were just black and orange. So they added more colors, and they also changed up some of the shirts. They had a "Let's Go Ducks" shirt, and then they also had a our team, our house shirt as well. So I like the fact of what they've been doing, and we've been trying to help out as well. They are going to have another watch party at Honda Center for Game 4 on Friday. Same deal as last time, just get there as early as you can. There was a line all the way around the building last time. I'm glad everybody went out there and had fun. I had a final that night, so I couldn't go, obviously. But I'm not sure who else is going to be there yet. Phil may be there again, pumping up the crowd. Obviously, Wild Wing will be there. They got the two big screens. You can bring any food that you want. You can bring any kind of drink you want except for alcoholic beverages. They'll have those there. Parking is free. It's a great event to have it out there. I'm glad that they finally built up, this area, and they're having the watch parties out there because, this is something that we've only had, just recently. But it's very good to see the fans and the organization as a whole getting into this, and everybody's getting pumped up, and appreciate the support from everybody. We're also making some more shirts as well for you guys. We have a retro design coming. I know some of you asked for a retro themed, Mighty Ducks type shirt. So we're going to have actually a couple versions of that coming out later this week. We have one kind of similar with the patch that we did with the third period is ours. That one's up on the website. I should have those picked up this week and mailed out. Had a little bit of delay with some of the shirts, but we'll get those all to you. And that's really it. Any other final comments on your end, Eddie, as we go into, the games 3 and 4 and go up to Calgary?
Nope. I think hopefully it's gonna be kind of hard to see everybody out there wearing orange in Calgary. But other than that, I think 2 minutes ago, the NHL announced that ex-Penguins GM Ratio was announced as the Devils GM for their fourth GM in team history. Other than that, I don't believe there's any more news. I think that was the big news for today coming out of the NHL.
All right, and that's going to do it for this week. We'll come back next week. We'll recap games 3 and 4, and if it ends up being a sweep this series, and we know who the opponent is, then we'll preview the opponent at that time. And thanks for listening, and let's go Ducks.
The Anaheim Ducks are the Stanley Cup champions.